So I have been wanting to talk about this topic for a while now because I believe that it is of utmost importance for impressionable young girls to know this. So we don't talk about it enough, and it is the glorification of avoidant men in the media, especially in TV shows, movies, and novels. I believe that women and girls are conditioned from such a young age to have an attraction for dysfunctional men or men who are dismissive, avoidant, or emotionally unavailable. Now, granted, everybody had a different upbringing and everyone comes with their own trauma and beliefs about attachment and relationships, but one thing is for sure, the media doesn't make things any better or encourage a sense of discernment when it comes to choosing healthy, sustainable relationships and partners. I have noticed that the male love interests that are walking red flags in real life somehow become intriguing and enticing prospects in movies, shows, and novels. I think it is important to do a deep dive into why these are the male prospects that we tend to see over and over again, and why are women and girls subconsciously attracted to them. First, I'm going to clarify what an avoidant man is and what a dismissive attachment style is all about. So, an avoidant man is a man who is emotionally unavailable, or as I'd like to call them, men who pretend to be emotionally available at the beginning stages of relationships to get what they want. These men usually place a huge emphasis on hyper-independence, and they struggle with emotional closeness, so they can be hot and cold, closed off, and have poor communication skills. They can be commitment phobes and put their work life above their romantic life willingly. Emphasis on willingly here because I am aware that there are people out there who genuinely struggle with the work and personal life balance, and they do want to invest more in romantic relationships. But in this case, investing into work is much more rewarding for these people. And I'm mentioning work here because it is not uncommon to find avoidant men that are quite successful in their professional lives, yet unsuccessful in romantic partnerships. It is because it is easier for them to invest their time and energy into non-romantic, non-emotional things. They're better equipped to deal with situations and people that don't require too much emotional energy. For example, how many times have we seen on TV the stereotypical rich CEO who can't seem to keep it together in the domestic sphere? His wife and kids don't see him enough. His wife is usually lonely and love-starved. And most times he's totally disconnected from his kids, both socially and emotionally as well. So there is also the stereotype of the man who doesn't necessarily have a lot going on for himself, but is still kind of an avoidant man, and women still fall for these types in novels, TV shows, and movies. So all avoidant men aren't necessarily successful, but it is not uncommon to find many of them to be successful, powerful men, ranking low on the empathy and sensitivity spectrum. But I digress, that is a conversation for another video. So what is an avoidant attachment style? So it is basically a behavioral pattern defined by a tendency to avoid emotional closeness or intimacy. It usually stems from having an unhealthy and insecure attachment to parents or primary caregivers. Because the emotional needs of the child weren't met, avoidance becomes a defense mechanism. So avoidant adults remain dismissive through a defensive avoidance of attachment, through devaluing relationships and minimizing harmful effects of mistreatment in their relationships. Now you may ask, what's so attractive about avoidant men then? First of all, avoidant men usually project an image of being in control, being fully capable and self-sufficient. Those are qualities that are generally attractive in people, but especially in men. Why is that? Well, it's because these are qualities related to leadership skills. And second of all, according to Dr. Al Sharai, who is a psychologist who wrote an article on Psychology Today about women and the hope for avoidant men, dismissive avoidant people can be very charismatic. They often present themselves as successful, self-assured, and charming. And finally, the emotional distance that avoidant men establish makes them appear mysterious, and many women can find that attractive. Now, it is important to note that women with a certain psychological makeup tend to be more inclined to fall for avoidant men. I am referring to the woman with the savior complex, women who believe that they have to fight to earn love, or women with daddy issues. Basically, women who are insecurely attached themselves, but more precisely, those who have an anxious attachment style. So funny enough, the data shows that avoidant and anxiously attached people often date each other. So it is interesting because both are emotionally deprived, but only one of them seeks closeness and is overly preoccupied with the emotional state of the relationship. And although the other seeks closeness subconsciously, they still undermine and sabotage the relationship to protect themselves from potential betrayal, abandonment, or disappointment. Now, how does all this relate to the male leads women and girls hate to love in movies, TV shows, and novels? Well, if you notice, many of the male leads in films and books tend to have an edge about them. They're usually mysterious, intriguing, and hard to figure out. And I hate to say it, but it is nothing more than their avoidant nature or tendencies. Women and girls tend to think that it's cute because that is how the entertainment industry present them to us. But really their emotional unavailability and their distant emotional nature is what we're sensing. Now, of course, they don't affect all girls the same way because, again, it depends on the psychological makeup of the girl on the receiving end. However, all girls are conditioned to find that attractive to a certain extent. If we take a look at Chuck Bass, a character in the show Gossip Girl, nobody has made a girl suffer like Chuck Bass has. So for those who remember, Chuck was more than a walking red flag. Some would argue that he was borderline sociopathic. Because he was so depraved of emotions and empathy, it was really hard to watch sometimes. So he did some horrific things on the show, and he made his love interest, Blair, truly suffer. Their relationship was toxic, it was volatile, and full of emotional roller coasters. And what's interesting is that we've seen Blair fall for him and fight for him so hard because Chuck would love bomb her on some instances, and then he would act very cold and dismissive towards her. So there was always this back and forth between the two, and as a young girl, it was hard to watch Blair be disappointed, betrayed, and dismissed time and time again. And despite everything Chuck has done on the show, you're still going to find tons of girls in real life who will tell you that their favorite character is Chuck Bass, or that they had the hots for him, or that they just find him very charming or interesting. Same goes for other problematic male leads such as Damon Salvatore from The Vampire Diaries, Mr. Big from SEX and the City, and Christian Grey from 50 Shades of Grey. And if you've noticed, there is always a pattern with these male characters and their love interest. There are usually themes of intense infatuation, limerence, savior complex, codependency, and power struggles. Anna Steele definitely wanted to save Christian's soul. Elena Gilbert wanted to save Damon's soul. And we also know that Carrie wanted to be that one special woman who changed Mr. Big or made him see things he wasn't seeing before. So the bottom line is that all of these women had no business engaging with these men to the extent they have. But somehow female viewers seem to fall or even advocate for these love stories because the film industry does a great job at glorifying these toxic avoidant men and relationships. So in conclusion, I am making this video to plant a seed in any girl's mind who might encounter my video and be confronted with the dilemma of either going for the quote-unquote safe guy or the challenging guy who feels like a danger but still intrigues you. I feel that it is a universal female experience to some extent, and it is important for women and girls to understand the role the film industry plays in all of this, regardless of our psychological makeup. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video and will pay attention to what we call our type and what that reveals about our beliefs and conditioning.